This is my review of The Xenophobes, indie feature film directed by Cullers and Dace. It's a sci-fi feature film, and the film's really kind of broken up into two parts, really. The first half of the film sees a captain and her crew, along with her family as well, traveling to a planet. I'm trying to remember the name of the planet now. Gliese, and there's been signs of intelligent life picked up there, so they're making their way there as ambassadors to try and sort of meet the people there. It's a 6-year journey, and when they get there, the initial reaction from the planet is hostile. So the captain Shriya, played by Svetlana Tulasi, manages to get her crew through this dangerous situation and onto the planet, where they're able to speak to one of the inhabitants via a robot. The robot kind of comes and speaks for them. It doesn't really go that well, and they make their way back. So their journey takes 12 years, so 6 years there, 6 years back, but that 12 years on Earth was 60. If anyone's seen the film Interstellar, it kind of explains that situation. So yeah, when they come back, the land, the Earth has changed a lot, and what's happened is now the Earth has managed to become violence free, which sounds great, but it's done largely through control. It's done through a food source. And what happens is the captain and her crew are now kind of treated as almost like violent invaders of their own land, and they get put into sort of isolation and told they need to join the ways of this world by having the food and becoming non-violent. But that would mean kind of almost giving up their freedom. And it's an interesting idea, and that for me when watching this film was kind of a bit of a disappointment that was really the film that should have been made, was this, which we get a whole hour of, but the film's 2 hours long, and the first half of the film, just journeying to this planet, feels almost unnecessary. You could have just had her coming back and explaining that kind of off, or at the very least a lot more condensed. So many scenes are unnecessary. There's so much baggy dialogue that goes with it. They're talking all different, it's almost like an episode of Star Trek, but just goes on and on and on. Like, they're talking about all the different things that are happening around the ship and on the planet, and it just was so not needed. Get to the story, get to what's happening. The parts with the family are better. So we see her husband, Thelonious, played by Andrew Smith, and scenes with them and their kids are kind of quite heartwarming. That's a bit more, it adds a lot of emotion to the proceedings. But even that is kind of drawn out as well. I think that the editing of this film really let it down. It becomes really, really long. Not to mention, there's some amateur aspects to the film. It's an indie film, I get it. It's ambitious to a fault. But if you're going to do a sci-fi film in space and have scenes where there's missiles going off, there's nuclear, all this stuff, the planet being invaded, the ship coming down, it can't look like that. You don't need to do that. You didn't need to do so much of this. It's almost like it was like, oh, well, we can, so let's do it. But should you? It added to the runtime, which it didn't need to, and because it's already too long. And the actual graphics and things like that were really off-putting for a viewer. In 2024, to see these things that look like South Park kind of graphics, it was like, right, okay. But like I said, that was sort of, we get it, it's an indie film, maybe you just wanted to do it, you want to have fun. And that's one thing I did really want to pick out with The Xenophobes, is as a film, first off, it's playing on some really big themes, about people being afraid of other cultures, the idea of being a xenophobe. And also, what would happen, if we lived in a violence-free world, and should we be pushing our culture onto other people and things like that. So it's doing a lot there. There's a lofty ideas, and I love that. And it is ambitious to make this kind of film, but you have to admit your resources and you have to tell the story in a way, the best way you can. And I think with this, a lot got left in which didn't really need to. But I love the fact that it did try. There's a lot of heartwarming scenes. There's a lot of positivity going on in the film, and you can tell they're having a good time, and that is also good. I like that when I see a film, I feel that they're having a good time making it. I just think from a completely neutral point of view, which is where I'm coming at it, I'm not connected to anyone in the film. I don't know anyone. I'm not from that area. Watching it as a purely audience member, I could see a lot of viewers getting turned off this because it doesn't know quite what to do with all these elements that it's trying to throw all at once. You got things like fake guns. There's space backgrounds being used. Some of the dialogue. All right, yes, there's the techie dialogue, but there's also some like emotional dialogue. It's not always delivered that well. Some of it is quite wooden or almost mumbled, and it doesn't create this sort of sharp, formidable piece of sci-fi filmmaking, which is what I think the filmmakers would have liked to have achieved. But hats off to trying. It's just, these are my notes. This is what I'm giving, would be my opinion in terms of what I would improve. The performances needed to be stronger, I think. All that being said, these sort of films do often find a home. Sci-fi is one of those genres that's quite forgiving in that sense, because it's escapism. You can throw yourself into it, and I think you can definitely do that with this film if you're going to be able to forgive it those things which stand in its way of being a great sci-fi movie. But yeah, it's not one for me, and I'm not sure if it's out. I don't think it is. Let me have a look. Nothing on there yet. We will be reviewing it on the podcast, so go check that out. So it'd be great to see what Brian thinks of that. And yeah, let us know if you do watch it in the comments. And yeah, we'll signpost you to the trailer if it's got one and things like that. So yeah, that's my review of the Xenophobes.